This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Tell me about the backstory of how Madison AI came to where it is now, or were you talking about on strategy?
Yeah, so a bit of my background, I'm the head of go-to-market for Madison AI. My prior role before jumping into the world of AI and local government was I worked for a management consulting company and a software company called On Strategy. We have been doing strategic planning for 20 to 25 years. We have a software application that we built to do that. We built a YouTube channel, content marketing, SEO, the whole, standard kind of like go-to-market in a B2B SaaS company over the last 20 to 25 years. Fun fact about our CEO, she wrote the Strategic Planning for Dummies book, the one that you can, buy at Barnes & Noble.
Nice.
Right. The strategic planning, a little bit dry, maybe not always the most interesting thing, but really focused on changing organizations and changing the trajectory of private sector, public sector organizations 20, 25 years. 2.5 years ago, we realized as a consulting practice, AI was going to fundamentally change the way people work and fundamentally change how we think about organizing ourselves, our strategic plans, and how we're going to achieve that big vision of the future. So, like many consulting practices, we put together some sessions, some workshops to run with our customers to think about building the important AI governance approach. So how are we using these tools safely? But also thinking about what's the world of possibility look like, and how are we gonna, everyone uses this word, but mission multiply ourselves with AI.
Okay.
So we put together these sessions. We ran them with several of our customers. So we're based here in Reno, Nevada. We have a long-standing relationship with several of our local jurisdictions running their strategic planning process. So we ran those with several customers, namely Washoe County, which is our county here in Reno, Nevada. So ran that with their county executive team, their CIO and their tech team, and a couple of other folks doing knowledge work. Great ideas in the room, thinking about how are we going to use this safely, but body of the work was what are the work tasks that we want to tackle with AI, and what's the world of opportunity to look like? Great ideas. For those of us in the local government space, the big idea in the room came from an assistant county manager. His name is Dave Solero. He said, I want a tool that can draft a staff report. So for those of us that don't know what a staff report is, it is like an executive summary. You know what a staff report is. Great.
Oh,
It's
no,
an executive
I don't.
summary.
I don't know what a
Okay.
staff report is. Tell me.
You don't know what a staff report is. So if you've ever been to a city or county council meeting, local government, meeting, board meeting, in the agenda packet, usually, anywhere from 1 to 500 pages. Yes, 1 to 500 pages of content that a commissioner has to read before entering a meeting and that staff has to prepare. There is a report for every agenda item that says, here are the things that we are looking for guidance on from the council. So it's an executive summary of the decisions that we need to make. 10 to 20 reports a meeting. These reports take 4 to 6 hours to produce from start to finish.
Yeah.
And the reason they take so long is they have to be well researched, they have to be cited, then they have to be reviewed. And then sometimes you do that loop a few times. And it requires going back through the city or the county or the water district's data to understand, have we voted on this before? What's the background on the topic? When was the last time that was this presented to council? So really a different way of working that is very specific to local governments. Dave said, I want a tool to draft staff reports. And off we went. So he approached us after those sessions and said, I'm really serious about building this. I think it's really going to change the way that we work. So we spent 6 months co-developing that with Washoe County, and we launched in March of 2024. The backstory on all of that is Washoe County co-founded this with us, which is not a normal thing for a GovTech company, but has changed the way that we develop.
Okay. What do you mean? Okay, so got it. Well, the management consulting in the strategy background leads very well to structuring those reports, like you were mentioning.
Yeah.
And you just so happen to find the problem statement that was very front and center. And now you have this local government who's basically raising their hand and saying if you guys are doing this, we want to be in it with you.
We want to build it with you.
We want to build it with you.
And so we have a software company as a part of the management consulting practice that does manage this, like a tech product that manages strategic plans.
Okay.
So we have an in-house development team. So that's kind of where the wheels started to spin.
Okay. All right. So I obviously work for Digital Web Solutions. It's Digital Web Solutions Group. So there's like 5 different companies underneath the umbrella. I have my own company, and I'm now, in a partnership with DWS to create something completely new. And I see that trend. It's like, okay, we can pull resources from here, pull resources from there. And I think that's becoming more and more common, where people are like, man, speed is basically, it's like the last moat. Like it's whoever can roll it out. Like this stuff is happening really, really fast. We were just talking about Claude Cowork and Claude Code about in the last, 2 weeks, how since those have rolled out, it has like, we're seeing it. I've never coded a line in my life, and I built a fully functional app this week. They're like, whoa. So tell me a little bit more about someone who doesn't understand what go-to-market is. They've probably seen GTM. It may seem like it's what is GTM, and like how does it differ from B2B SaaS or marketing or any other company? How does it differ in your role?
Yeah, so go-to-market for a GovTech company is really like a combination of a couple different things. So it's a combination of marketing strategy, marketing execution. It is a combination of the sales and customer acquisition engine. So from the moment we touch a prospect to the time we close a prospect, what does that do? And then, in some GTM roles that it's also through delivery. In my particular role, I'm not managing delivery of the work, but it's basically designing the go-to-market motion, or how are we going to go to market, earn customers, position our company, market the company, and then sell. So that's my everyday.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you bring in a couple different departments there, let's say.
Yeah.
Like when I look at a traditional company, even if it's in a local government, it's probably not the best example. But let's say a home service is like a renovation company, a remodeling company. They'll have a marketing department, they'll have a sales department, they'll have a development department, but they don't have a go-to-market department typically, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're blending these things in, and it's a little bit of everything. I mean, how does that role, that position, that department, the GTM, in what you're doing at Madison AI, how does it differ with the strategy you had from the local government in Reno?
Yeah, I think it's more for the go-to-market motion for this. It's more about really tightly coordinating between the different functions in an organization. There is, in this particular space, in GovTech really specifically, there kind of is this really interesting blend between sales and marketing, because so much marketing happens on the sales floor. In some ways, that doesn't always happen in other traditional like B2B companies. But because so much of how you earn and acquire customers in this business is face-to-face interaction, that face-to-face interaction goes from first touch to close. And so in this place and space, it makes sense.
Okay. Face-to-face interactions. In government, traditionally, these are slow-moving entities. There's a lot of red tape. I'd imagine you run into a lot of that when you have a GovTech AI company, where like a lot of the conversation is around, I mean, what you're actually doing with the company is you're pulling in all of their proprietary internal documentation and data, and then feeding it through a large language model with may or may not be open source, in order to expedite things and make it more efficient. So it's no longer in that traditional slow-moving behemoth type of category, right? So how do you approach the data conversation?
Yeah, it's super interesting, right? So you have to meet the customer where they are. And in this case, we have architected our entire application to meet the customer where they are. Every deployment we do is designed to unite the data from their different applications, their different systems of record. And in government, there are a lot of them. Different things, different core functions use different tools to accomplish different tasks. And none of these things talk to each other. I think that's true in private sector, but it is even more true in the public sector. So when I say meet the customer where they are, we are building these applications such that it is only for their city. are actually building custom databases for every city we're working with in a closed application on dedicated storage, on dedicated virtual machines. Like the level of security that's required to work with a public entity, not to say that private companies don't take security seriously, it requires a different level of, what's the word I'm looking for? A different level of care, because these individuals that are our customers are stewards of the government's data. They are stewards of public data. So they take that quite seriously.
Hey, we hope you're enjoying the coffee and the conversation so far. This show is powered by Digital Web Solutions. And if you've ever wondered how the biggest brands actually build authority, this is it. DWS has a massive network of over 250,000 publishers, real sites that help you rank on Google, and more importantly, stay visible in AI search. It's the heavy lifting most teams just can't do on their own. As a thank you for listening, they're offering an exclusive free strategy call just for our eCoffee listeners. It's a great way to map out your authority plan for 2026. Just click the link below to book yours and see how they can help scale your brand. All right, now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, a different level of delicacy, maybe?
Yeah, it's a really good word for it.
Delicate, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be gentle with it. Yeah. And figure out the right approach. So tell me, for this whole marketing, like front end of the GTM experience, right? You mentioned it's like, it's everything from presenting and like positioning all the way into the sales conversation, all the way into client acquisition. And then in your case, you hand it off to the actual delivery of the product and the build and everything like that. How, just because the audience here, a lot of the conversation is how do we get more visibility in SEO, on AI, on the algorithms, social media, let's start there. How are you thinking about visibility for Madison AI? And then obviously you don't need to do that for the government, but.
Yeah. So I think it always comes back. It's like, this is actually just not even sales. It's actually just straight up marketing. It's like understanding your customer and understanding where your customer lives, breathes, and works, and how they interact with information. How do they acquire knowledge? How do they seek out services or product? And so it doesn't really, the digital ecosystem is the digital ecosystem. You just pick and pack where your customer lives. And in our case in space, LinkedIn's really important. There's a component of search that is important and, was foundational in how we picked one of the reasons we picked our company name is, making sure that people could find it. It was a searchable term.
Yeah.
And that there was, not a super competitive keyword, right? So like picking a place in space that you can compete in is super important, but understanding how people consume and acquire knowledge, especially in the day of AI where people are changing the way they're consuming information. They're still consuming information. It's just a matter of disseminating your message through the appropriate channel. So for us, we're in person, which is really kind of a different way to think coming from a different B2B SaaS company. But like we are doing face-to-face interaction and valuing that experience because that's where our customers are.
I think that message is so important. A lot of what I see is like, well, this is what I'm good at, so I'm just going to stay in that space. But it's like, well, the thing that you're offering is like, there's a disconnect. So it's really cool that you're mentioning LinkedIn is a big channel for you. When it comes to starting those conversations, where is the conversation typically starting?
Yeah, I think the conversation is really starting from, so everybody in every sector of the world, public, private, whatever, education, everyone's asking the same question. Like how is AI going to change form? Or how is AI going to transform my work? And it's prevalent in government. And so that's kind of where the conversation starts is like, so what are the challenges you're seeing in your in your organization? Where are the biggest time sucks that you could maybe accelerate with AI, with human in the loop, so that you could focus on higher value work? I think that's like it's a meta theme no matter where you are. That's where we're trying to meet our customers. But to do that, you have to understand their problem and you have to understand their work. You have to understand the nuance in their work and you have to understand how that work gets done.
So that's like how the conversation is starting. Like you're basically saying like, what are you most frustrated with? Which is it's a great place to start when you have a solution that you're offering, right?
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to know a little bit more about the surface at which those conversations start. Is it like on a comment? Is it in a DM? Is it cold email, cold call?
I mean, it's a little bit of everything. It's
Okay.
like there's outbound prospecting, there's LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that's really, really interesting about local government
Mm-hmm.
is that they all talk to each other. It's not like the
Yeah.
competitive environment. It's not like the competitive environment where, you're fighting with a competitor over market share.
Hmm.
These people are, they're really deeply ingrained in their communities. They're really deeply ingrained in what their neighboring communities are doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it is as much initiating the conversation, working with a customer, and then getting referability from that. It is a really different place and space to go from a B2B SaaS company where, everyone wants to find the best kept secret and keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
And in government, it's not like that.
Interesting. Different space, different place, like you were saying, different strokes
Yeah.
for different folks.
Yeah. And so it's, this team is amazing. And a lot of us have worked together for a really long time, but this is in a lot of ways, it's a new world for us. We've had government, contracts before, but, now we're only doing government contracts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm curious about when you do bring a client on board, what's the first like big win that you're going for? Like what's the fastest route to the aha moment where they're like, oh, this is like more than I thought. Like this is actually blowing my expectations. Like, do you have a
Yeah.
moment like that? And how do you approach getting to that first milestone to create that stickiness?
Yeah. So I think that there's a big aha moment that happens. So there are different functions in government, and we're building models to tackle different functions of government because it requires different pieces of data. So
Hmm.
let's take, we usually start with like citywide data and build a citywide model. And then we also have a model it's called community development. So it's the department that manages the building within a community, reviews plans, and issues permits. So getting to an aha moment is different based on who you're working with, who you're talking to. But I think the big unlock is local government is unique in that it is all about decision tracing. So understanding how a council made decision over time.
Hmm.
And getting that information from files that are locked in an agenda management system, which is how they manage agendas, or a document repository, like a Laserfiche. It's called Laserfiche, formerly known as microfiche on film.
Okay.
Getting the data about decisions takes a lot of time. So
Yeah.
showing somebody like, here's how you can do a voting record. Here's how you can understand the context for a decision on what the commission did and why and when is like the light bulb moment. And it doesn't, and that is true for most of the functions in local government. There are specific work tasks that are more painful in each department, right? But really, like if you unlock that moment, like I understand, like I don't have to go dig through 4 systems to find a vote. People understand the concept.
So giving that early aha moment depends, and the actual, like, let's say the deliverable, I suppose the artifact, whatever that is different on the person based on
Very much.
who you're starting with. So okay, that brings up another interesting point in marketing, and you have a background in SEO. Now it's shifting to AI optimization, and that's something that we can definitely get into that. But one of the biggest things that we're seeing is the depth of, or I suppose the tightness of your message and the consistency of that message across channels, across blogs. How does that, knowing that you'll have different points of entry to a local government, how does that affect your content strategy?
It's like directly impacts.
Yeah.
It actually, the way that you message changes based on the role, changes based on the job, changes based on the title. So like, a lot of time we're talking to the executive level of a government, right? So the county manager or the assistant county manager or the board of county commissioners or a city council person. Those are executive level title. Their problems are much different than somebody who is like actually doing the work, doing we call it like management analyst level. Like those 2 jobs are different. And, they kind of do, end up meeting in the middle because it's all about decision-making processes. But how you message, what a management analyst values and an executive values are 2 very different things. And what an engineer or somebody in community development values is far different than somebody who is in procurement or managing contracts. And so understanding the archetype for whom you're speaking with and the things that they value and and how your product fits into that mix is like, it matters deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine. So bringing that to the SEO, AEO conversation, when it comes to content strategy on page and off site, and knowing that there's this algorithms are craving consistency, they're craving depth, unique, net new content.
Yep.
How do you decide what content gets to be published?
I mean, we're, to be fair, we're pretty early on in our content strategy.
Cool.
We're working on that pretty deeply. But the way that this is going to play out, and the way that I think that AI has obviously changed search in really meaningful and kind of scary ways sometimes to think about. But it's understanding what your audience is searching for and how do you create content to meet that need. And really specifically, when we get into like these niches about different roles and different archetypes and the way they think, the language they use.
Yeah.
Because the way that an engineer is going to search for content in their ecosystem of planning and community development is different, much different than a clerk. So an engineer is wanting to know everything about land use, GIS maps, and like really like, let's call them keyword specific terms. A clerk cares about how do I build an agenda and how do I do my minutes faster. Those are like two different schools of thought, two different trains of thought, two different pieces of content, and different addressable search markets.
So with Madison, you're essentially giving or building, I should say, a system that touches every employee of the organization. Is that fair to say?
I would say in most, I would refine it and say we're touching people who are doing internal knowledge work. So knowledge work that supports a governing body's decision making. So the main council, the planning commission, which handles zoning and development, contracting, procurements and contracting. We're doing some work to support a city attorney, the city attorney's office. But really, those are kind of like the places and spaces we're working on. And then we can build models and assistance for other departments, but that's generally where we start. So when we start, we build what we call a citywide model. It has pretty broad applicability for any staff member in the organization.
Okay. That makes sense. So instead of thinking of like a company, like a CRM, SaaS company, a B2B SaaS company would say, all right, this product is specifically for the sales team for the most part, right? We have an HR product and that's specifically for the HR team. However, how do you make design decisions on the, on the business, knowing that it has to touch basically, a bunch of different departments, if you will, if we see the city as the client? You have multiple different clients, multiple different personas. Underneath that, there's, it's a lot. How do you prioritize design?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from listening to the customer. So we as a practice are partnering with these jurisdictions. We have 50 customers now, growing pretty fast, partnering with the jurisdictions to understand their needs and then designing and building applications based on those needs and those needs only. Because, our co-founding partner at Washoe, like they've really helped guide the development of this tool with their team and telling us like, these are the data sources. This is how we use the data. And this is the final work product we need. Really helpful in doing that. But we have other customers that are doing the same thing. So a great example is we're working with a jurisdiction in Southern California, city of Corona. They wanted to build a procurement model. And so we, said, let's build a procurement model that can help you draft RFPs and contracts in your language format template. And so, a lot of that is us guiding that, but then them giving us feedback and saying, this is actually how we would like this work product to look. And the reason we're doing this is because not all local government work is the same, but the work that all these governments are doing, the problems are kind of all the same. And they all have the same departments and they all have the same systems of record. So the same inputs and the same outputs, no matter where you are, pretty much, with some, different flavors based on state law or local things that change.
Yeah, that was kind of my next question is you basically like you have a product, but the product is the custom build based on the individual needs. You kind of have a base layer, you have an understanding, you have the structure of an ecosystem. How much is, because our audience, I speak with many agency owners, and what I tend to notice is not always the case, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly, there are exceptions. This is mostly the rule, where the larger the agency grows, the less customization they do until you get into like the, the massive, global agencies like NP Digital or AMSIV or those kind of guys. But it almost kind of follows this, I guess, bell curve where the smaller the agency, everything is custom. And then it kind of follows like, okay, we're standardizing. And then we have productized agencies, which is like niche specific. Say, this is it. This is what we offer. Here's our 3 price points. And then you get less, more, and then even more. And then it kind of dips off into like the enterprise ones that are like, yes, we have all the standardized products, but really we're building custom solutions and they're premium priced. So the question is, how much is productized and how much is custom?
I would say that's a really good question. I would say we're moving to a place where it's, well, gosh, that is a really great question.
I'm curious about this personally.
The data infrastructure. So this whole thing rises and falls on data, and it rises and falls on the quality of the indexes we can create for these governments. So getting to a place where you can have a system that unites, pick and pack between 20 different systems that unites it in the same way, it's pretty challenging to do. So the data work that we're doing to make these applications actually deliver the results that these customers want and need is quite serious. Like really, I would say 80% of our work is there. And then, the economy of scale is to build the agentic workflows that can do the work based on the data that you have, the data structure that we're creating. We're always building in there. And there are some custom things that are happening on, every jurisdiction has a staff report template. And so we program to that staff report template. Like it matches their language, tone, format standards, double space after the period, Oxford comma, all of that. And same with their procurement. Like, so some cities have 20 contract templates. So we need to make sure that our outputs can get into 20 contract templates accurately. So that's custom work, but really the custom work is the data and the data infrastructure. And so I would say, there's probably 70% of that's an economy of scale. And then there's a 30%, and the 30% matters really deeply in getting that answer right. And that's the difference, in the world of AI and in the world of products you can spin up a product in 2 days now with Claude. It matters about the infrastructure and how you are doing data retrieval, especially in this place that we're working in.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's the nuance, right? Understanding like, So tell me about a little bit more about your role in AI in your specific role. What sort of workflows or tools have made the biggest impact?
I mean, we here are mandated. What are you going to do to 10x your day? So that's like kind of the question we walk in with every single day is like, what are you going to do with the tools in your tool belt to 10x your day? So from obviously you've got your off the shelf stuff, your Claude and your GPTs and all that stuff, and anything from content creation, nurture sequences, campaign writing, like all that stuff is happening in all of those systems, of course. Figuring out how you move into an agentic workplace that can help execute some of the tasks you're doing as a salesperson is one of the things that I think a lot of people are working on. Certainly what we're working on is like, how can we use AI to write in our voice to help do some of the outreach, right? In the creative space, I mean, we have designers and things, but it's like, how can I use, whether it's Canva or the built-in stuff in the Adobe's Creative Suite, or even just like off-the-shelf tools to get myself to a wireframe to hand off to a designer, so that we don't have to go back and forth and communicate so deeply about what we're looking for. Like, and then you talk about SEO. And so, I mean, I've done all of it. I've done the scale nuts. I've done the, I mean, I've tried 1,000 different SEO tools, and some of them are great, some of them are not.
No, I completely agree. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he was talking about Claude Code, serial entrepreneur, German guy, talking about Claude Code and how, again, just like you and I, like how easy it is to get in there and produce something like pretty substantial, like pretty high value, high quality in a short period of time, writing no code whatsoever. Yeah, absolutely no code whatsoever. But he was saying that sometimes what he wished he would have done in the beginning of this journey is just realized how many off-the-shelf tools there are that he doesn't have to customize. So I guess knowing our audience, we have many SEOs, many leaders, marketing leaders at brands, and many digital entrepreneurs. What do you want them to do differently on Monday morning after they've listened to this podcast?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Woo!
Ooh, yeah, I think so. If I would have given myself, my 20-year-old self, the tools that we have in our toolbox today, and I would have walked into work and said, do it differently. Let's talk just particularly in the world of SEO.
Mm-hmm.
I would use these tools to do deeper think work to understand my customer better and understand their problems, their jobs to be done, what pain points they have, what keeps them up at night. I think having a tool that can like get you through some of the conversations where you used to sit in a boardroom and debate for 5 hours about all of these things. I think you can get to more thoughtful thinking with a partner like a generative AI tool to help think about some of these things faster. And then I would have so then the next piece in the SEO world was like, okay, understand my customer, understand their pain points. How am I going to create content that is going to rank and be searchable? And so the next thing is just thinking about like 1,000 ways I can structure a piece of content to meet the search need and to meet a niche and to create a piece of content that is unique, perfect for the customer that I'm trying to speak with, and that is just going to be able to rank. And then you can follow the playbook that we know on what creates pages that rank. So great content, great deliverable, optimized pages, and then all of that work that you have to do for linking.
Yeah.
It accelerates this work in ways that I would have dreamed about at 20.
Yeah. I love that response. And thank you for taking a moment to think through, I know that was kind of a curveball.
It's always a good exercise, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. There are a couple of people that I follow in the SEO space, in the marketing, in the AI space. One of them is Eric Sue. He and I used to work at his company, Single Grain, and I learned so much from Eric. He's like a fantastic mentor, business leader, marketer, wicked smart. But he is posting on LinkedIn all the time about how he's using Claude, how he's using OpenClaw, and these other AI systems. And the thing that came through to me yesterday, which I absolutely implemented yesterday, is he's like, I'm on GitHub and I see these repositories of skills. Like there's publicly available domain, like skills. One of them is like website CRO. One of them is AI SEO. One of them is just everything. And they're superpowers. You can literally download the guy who has these publicly available MD files for all these different superpower skills is like an MIT, super high up at MIT. He's like helping design these AI systems and then writing exactly what the skills are. They're very comprehensive. They're like 40 pages a piece.
Could you think about, 15 years ago in the world of AI when we were still like, or before the world of AI, when we were still like chasing Google updates?
Yeah.
Doing different in-page linking strategies to try to get to perform better with Google Panda, with Panda update.
Right.
And now you can go into Claude, use a skill set, come up with 1,000 headline alternatives and 1,000 different schemas. Well, 1,000's an exaggeration, but 100
Maybe
different
not, though.
schemas. Maybe not though, right? And 1,000 different
10x.
schemas, and then write content at a speed that it was not previously available. And the thing that we always like pause and say is like, don't create slop. And the AI slop, I think, is really real. I think it's really real in content marketing. So having an opinion, having a point of view, having voice of the customer, and understanding your audience, I think is still just the way that the world needs to be.
Yeah. Still key is we can create all this fancy stuff, all these cool workflows and everything, but at the end of the day, it still touches another human at the end of the rope. So yeah, optimizing for that. Obviously, we have to optimize for the channel too, but
and people are getting privy to like, oh, this is just another thing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I completely agree. So as we wrap up the conversation, Heyden, what is it that you're looking forward to, or what are you guys leaning into in 2026? If you had to choose, like, you know what, this is going to be the biggest part of our go-to-market strategy, and we're kind of just going to take the top 20% that's working and cut a majority of everything else, what would that top 20% be?
Ooh, well, for us, I think it's back to customer. So understanding your customer, we're doubling down and we're showing up in person, which is, it's a legitimate strategy in 2026 when everything is digital. Like it changes things. And I'd say just the other thing is we are going to use AI to 10x our work, but it's also like a bit of an experimentation and a failure. Take the 5 things that are working. How can you make them faster, better, stronger with AI? And if that doesn't work, then can it quickly?
Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. I appreciate your
thank you.
expertise. Really cool to hear about your background experience, how this current Madison AI came from a previous company, and which still exists, by the way.
It does. We're still here. We're still doing good work.
Yeah.
And now we're cohabitating the same building, which is kind
nice.
of fun. Yeah.
And then, the approach to go-to-market strategy, particularly with local government, is a very interesting take, and you guys have different challenges than a lot of other AI slop that you see on LinkedIn. Not a whole lot of people talking about that. So thank you for bringing very unique and valuable perspectives. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I have a cheesy picture of me speaking at a conference, so nervous in front of 1,000 people, but there it is. I'm also, you can reach out to me on madisonai.com. Happy to talk.
Cool. I appreciate it, Heyden. Thank you very much for being here,
you.
and we'll talk to you next time.
We'll talk. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.